So I have an update for you on the Matt Gaetz situation, creepy Matt Gaetz situation. Take a look.
Here's NBC's Hallie Jackson.
This morning, new allegations about Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, a report of a Justice Department investigation focusing on Gaetz and an indicted Florida politician, and allegations of their involvement with multiple women who were recruited online for sex and received cash payments, according to the New York Times, citing sources close to the investigation. The Times reporting investigators are focusing on Gaetz and Joel Greenberg, a former tax collector in Seminole County, Florida, indicted last year and now pleading not guilty to a federal sex trafficking charge and other crimes. The Times, writing Greenberg initially met the women through websites that connect people who go on dates in exchange for gifts, fine dining, travel, and allowances. Mr. Greenberg introduced the women to Mr. Gaetz, who also had sex with them. According to people close to the investigation who spoke with the Times, some of the men and women took ecstasy, an illegal mood-altering drug, before having sex, including Mr. Gaetz. The Times reports it reviewed scripts from Cash App, a mobile payments app, and Apple Pay that reportedly show payments from Gaetz and Greenberg to one of the women, and a payment from Greenberg to a second woman, according to the Times report. NBC News has not reviewed those documents. Gaetz denied ever paying a woman for sex. And a spokesman says Matt Gaetz refutes all the disgusting allegations completely. The Florida Republican already in the spotlight. After revelations earlier this week, the Justice Department is examining whether Gaetz violated federal sex trafficking laws by having a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him.
Homeboy's in trouble, son. It looks like he's going down. It looks like he's going to jail. Like real deal Holyfield jail. That's what it looks like. So, I mean, there's a big investigation going on right now. A dude who he was like best friends with is already serving time over some sex crime. It looks like he frequently was paying for prostitutes, and now we know some of those prostitutes are potentially underage, and there were orgies with them. There's a trail because they used whatever Cash App and Apple Pay and other things that investigators apparently have some evidence of. I think one of the women came out and took down the person who's like his best friend, who was the tax collector in Florida. What Trump proved is that you can basically bluster your way out of any scandal, but there is an exception to that. And the exception to that is if there's an official investigation into you and they have the goods and they have the evidence, then it doesn't matter what you say or how aggressive you are or how convincing you sound. If they have the evidence, they have the evidence, and you're going down, son. You're going down. So this is what you get, creepy Matt Gaetz. Creepy Matt Gaetz. Paying for underage sex. And, somebody made a great point. They said, this is the exact sort of shit that Epstein did, where you basically coerce these young underage girls into doing this stuff. And there is no, by definition, according to the law, there is no consent when somebody's underage. But for somebody to get to that position, this is what child sex trafficking is, where there's coercion and there's exploitation, and you get these poor girls into these compromising, terrible situations. They're children, they're kids, and they really don't know what they're doing. And the law is clear that once you get over that legal age, then you have agency according to the law, and there needs to be some extra level of criminality, But when you're underage, by definition, the stuff is exploitation and coercive and criminal, and if they got the goods on him with underage women, that's game, set, match, dude. You're done. You're over. There is no coming back from that. There's a Florida prosecutor on TV this morning who was like, he could go to jail for life over this. For life. There you go. And we'll see again, how many allies stick by him. The right is generally on the side of holding the line no matter what their people are accused of. But again, there's a big difference between the Trump scandals where he could just sort of power his way through it, and this, which is there's an investigation into you and they seemingly have the goods, and your best friend already went down on some creepy shit. And so now it's just tick-tock, dog. Tick-tock. You know, it seems like it's a matter of time. And by the way, I have news from behind the scenes that apparently Tucker Carlson was furious the other night when Matt Gaetz came on to respond to the scandal, and Matt Gaetz repeatedly implicated Tucker. Matt Gaetz repeatedly said, like, I'm not the only person who's accused of some impropriety, and it turned out to be false. Happened to you too, Tucker. He's like, what? I don't know what he's talking about. Then there's another point where he's like, remember when me and my wife had dinner with you and your wife, Tucker? He's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So he's, Gaetz is taking everybody down with him, seemingly. That's the only thing. I mentioned this in the last segment, too, or I mentioned this on Crystal Kyle and Friends. That's the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause about the whole situation, which is, if Matt Gaetz knows where all the bodies are buried of all the other rich and powerful people, maybe he doesn't go down, because he could just expose everything. If he's got some Epstein-level knowledge about everybody in Congress who's into some creepy-ass, kinky, illegal shit, maybe they have to sort of let him go, or else the whole ring comes down. And I'll tell you what, that whole ring has a lot of power, and they'll probably do anything and everything to make sure the ring doesn't go down, And so that's sort of like an Epstein-like story. But yeah, this is Epstein-level creepiness, where orgies with underage women that you're paying for the sex, and somebody already went down, and Jesus Christ, it's just... We'll see, but, there's probably a lot more dirt out there, and what the Epstein scenario should have proved to you is that nothing is too wild, nothing is too extreme, that there are probably creepy, elite child sex rings and gross groups that are into this sort of stuff, and it's all lurking just beneath the surface. And you'd be surprised at how depraved a lot of these animals are.